You guys want to know the epitome of motherhood? It's A, filming this video in between the time that she decides to take a nap. 2, having literal throw up and dried up on my sweatshirt, and also getting a Diet Coke as a treat after just a long rough day and week, past 2 hours. I bought this cup last year and it's a Christmas cup from Anthropologie. It is so cute, and it's like, I swear my Diet Coke is just crispier this way. Anyway, hello everybody, welcome. I did a pregnancy chat back when I was still pregnant. I thought that I would do a motherhood chat, you know, a little bit after having a baby. You know, have some experience under my belt and then talk about kind of my experience. Here is the thing. I said this, I think, in my pregnancy chat, and it's just a theme that I will continuously say, which is motherhood and babies and everything. Like, there are base things that I feel like are pretty like universal, but at the end of the day, like, your baby is so different and your child is so different, therefore your journey will be similar but also very different from people. I thought I would speak on mine a little bit, and not just my journey with motherhood and things about it, but also about some items in case you are expecting or you're a fellow mom. Baby's up. Quick commercial break to thank today's sponsor, which is, of course, Squarespace. I've talked about Squarespace an endless amount of times on my channel, I know, but that is because they're definitely the best place to go if you are needing to build a website for any reason. They have the best analytics for you to use to make sure your website is running to the best of its capability. There are endless options for you to keep up to date with what's working for your website, what's not, where people are coming from, and what's worth your time on the website. Also, a big thing about the website is keeping people coming back, whether you're doing a blog, online storefront, whatever it may be. Squarespace helps you with email campaigns. They help you make some emails to send out to your subscribers, people who are coming to the blog, people who are visiting the store. That way you can keep them coming back. And now you can even sell content on Squarespace, whether that's videos, courses, whatever it may be. You can also decide whether it's a one-time payment, an annual fee. Squarespace is here to make building a website as easy as possible. So if you guys are interested, head on over to squarespace.com. And when you guys are ready to launch, head on over to squarespace.com/JessieStable to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. As always, thank you so much again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Sorry to cut to commercial break. Honestly, I didn't have a plan for this video. I just want this to feel like a relaxing, like talking, chatting with a friend. So let's just get into it. I wrote a sentence in my notes app the other day as I think it was really like 3 a.m. I was rocking her to sleep and I wrote this sentence in my notes. I said, motherhood feels like a math equation you're always trying to solve. Now that I'm reading it like delirious in the middle of the night, I kind of get what I was trying to say. I also don't. I think what I was trying to say is, like, you know the feeling of trying to solve a math equation? You're sitting there and you think you're on the right track, and then you ask your teacher if you've done it right, and they're like, it's not quite right. You need to figure out a different way. That is what motherhood feels like to me. You're constantly trying to figure out the right answer to the equation, and it feels like there's a bunch of different ways that you can go about it. The first thing, I guess, that I will chat about that leads to physical motherhood, I guess, is what you can say, is giving birth. If you are somebody that does not have kids, or maybe you are planning on having kids, you're pregnant, whatever it may be, I will tell you this. I always envisioned having children. Obviously, that was like a big part of my life that I always envisioned. Now, one of the things that scared me to death was giving birth. It can be very, very scary. Like, you hear also like so many people tell you these like scary birth stories, and that really, really scared me when I was pregnant, because I swear the only TikToks I was getting on my For You page, no matter how many times I clicked not interested, were people sharing their negative birth experiences, and that just scared the crap out of me, and I already was scared beforehand. And I would get this like random, like I would be sitting on the couch and I would randomly get this like spike of anxiety thinking about how I had to give birth, because it was so unknown to me. Obviously, I know multiple people, my own mother, I know multiple people in my life that have given birth, but it's the same as with motherhood and children. Birth is also a very, very personal experience. You can have similar experiences to others, but it's always very personal to you. Honestly, I don't want to go into too many of the details because I do want to keep my actual birth story private. I will say though, I had to have a scheduled induction. I actually had to go into the hospital at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and the reason that they told me 3 o'clock was because obviously like that time of night is kind of what they described as like an odd time of night. Obviously they want to save the beds for mothers who are just like naturally going into labor, but they were scheduling an induction with me. I went to my doctor's appointment and they were like, yeah, we need to schedule an induction. And so basically it was either I, one, went into labor myself, or two, I just went to my scheduled induction. Ended up going to my scheduled induction, but I will say I do feel like literally the night, like the day into night that I was going into the hospital for the induction, I felt like I was going into the early stages of labor. Like I felt like I was having contractions a little bit, like I could feel them, and they were kind of like far apart, like very far apart, but they just kept happening. Ultimately, I did get induced. The first part of an induction that they did at my hospital, they gave you medicine via your mouth, like you had to take it. It was like a tablet of some sort, and that was like the first thing that you did. And that was easy. Okay, I was sat up, I was like, had the straps and everything on, I was fine. I was even able to eat on that medicine. I think I don't know, I just didn't eat after that. I ate like a little bit. I also had no appetite because when I'm in a very anxious situation, I'm not hungry, and I wasn't even hungry. But I remember my mom and my fiance were like, no, you need to eat something. Oh wait, that actually reminds me. I took my rings off because I was cleaning. I had to put my rings back on because I was cleaning earlier. I'm very, very sensitive and delicate with it. But anyway, I was not naturally in labor yet. And I forget exactly what they told me because I was also just a little bit out of it. And my anxiety hits a certain point, I kind of black out a little bit. It's like a mix of anxiety and adrenaline. And when those two combinations hit me, I do kind of black out. The whole entire time I was able to drink water, Sprite, and apple juice. We had to take a little feeding break. I cannot remember where I was at before we stopped filming, and the sun is going down, which also just reminds me of one of the things about postpartum that I had seen talked about. I don't know the proper term for it. I call them nighttime scaries, which we'll get back to. I think I was talking about the whole entire just birth experience. Well, I remember like after giving birth, it did feel just like a little bit traumatic for me. I'm not gonna get into the details. I wouldn't say I had a negative birth experience by any means. I just feel like a few of the things that happened to me, it really depends on who you are. It did feel like, I just remember like after giving birth, there's so much that goes on because I remember laying on my side and grabbing onto the bed because I had the shakes really, really bad because I was in pain. The doctor came in and was like, okay, we're gonna do another cervical check, which let me tell you, when I had cervical checks throughout labor without an epidural, y'all, the pain that I felt, like it really depends on the type of person you are, but the cervical checks for me were so painful. She came in and she was like, hey, I'm just gonna check really quick just so we can see like where to go from here. And literally, she didn't even get to do the cervical exam. She was like, oh, your baby's head is literally right there. You need to get to pushing. And then literally, I pushed with the nurse. And then when I was basically ready to deliver my baby, she was like, okay, the doctor's like 15 people come in the room because there's people there for the baby. There's the doctor and like their assistants. There's just so many people that walk into the room. They turn like the big overhead lights on. Like it is a very overwhelming thing. And all those people are in there for like a little while after you give birth because there's so many things to do. Check up on the baby, check up on you. And so I just remember looking around after giving birth and I was like so out of it. I had to basically re-administer a stronger dose of an epidural from my understanding. I just remember like after birth feeling a little bit traumatized, just a little bit overwhelmed. I was very, very overwhelmed the whole entire time we were in the hospital. I remember telling my mom and my fiance as soon as we got to the hospital and I got my hospital bed, and they left the room and they were like, okay, go ahead and get changed either into your hospital gown. I brought my own hospital gown and I was able to wear that hospital gown, put my gown on. I was waiting for the nurses to come back in and I kept telling my mom and fiance, like, I just want to go home. Definitely after delivering my baby, I knew how essential it was to stay in the hospital for as long as they see fit, but I just the whole entire time, I got no sleep, obviously, because also you had just birthed a baby and it was all so new and I was like, I don't even think I can sleep. Like I am so worried. The feeling of like, I can't wait to go home. Like the hospital's give me anxiety personally. Directly postpartum, I remember when I did my nesting vlog, I showed like my hospital bag and everything I was bringing. And let me just tell you guys, I used every single thing that I brought in my hospital bag. Every single thing that I brought got used. I will say one of the funny things is that throughout my pregnancy, the doctors and everything, when we did ultrasounds, they were like, oh yeah, like she's probably going to be a small baby. She was a lot bigger than anybody anticipated. So I brought like preemie sized clothes, like thinking, oh, she's gonna fit in the preemie stuff. no, my baby was too big for preemie. I bought plenty of them because again, the doctors were telling me like, oh yeah, I think she's just gonna be on the smaller side. Like that's what she's measuring. So much so that when my OB came in the next day after I gave birth to check on me and the baby for a second, she looked at my baby and she was like, where was she hiding? Because I would not have ever anticipated your baby being this big. So that's also just a funny thing, is because I think the only things that didn't get used in my hospital bag were her preemie clothes. I packed preemie newborn clothes. At first put her in like a preemie like sleeping gown. It looked comically small on her, and so I had to change her immediately. I think I'm just talking about my hospital stay. Do you guys want to know like a random anecdote? I don't even know if that's the correct word. A random story. Now I feel like I could not watch the Harry Potter movies, like even if I wanted to, because some hospitals, all hospitals, I don't know, they have a TV in the room. And after giving birth, I finally figured out the TV, aka finally found the remote. I was trying to control the remote from the remote that was attached to the bed, but that's because the remote on the bed said channel and volume. So am I wrong to assume that it controlled the TV? Anyway, the only channel that wasn't playing something that was like a soap opera was the Sci-Fi Network, and they had a Harry Potter movie marathon on the entirety of my stay in the hospital. So random. Now I literally like can't even turn on the Harry Potter movies, even if I wanted to. Like every time I even think about the Harry Potter movies or somebody brings up Harry Potter, I just get like a flashback to how I felt in the hospital. Here's the thing about staying in the hospital after giving birth. It's very overwhelming. One, because you just gave birth and you're just a little bit like, what just happened? And also depending on what happened while giving birth or after, it can also be very overwhelming. But also, especially with your first child, you're just like, what do I do now? Like you're like, I've researched what to do. I've put thoughts into what to do, obviously, but now you're in it, and that feeling is both exciting, overwhelming, and scary at the same time, because you are literally like taking care of a human, and not to mention like newborns are just so like fragile, and that's like how you feel. Like you're like, any little thing that you're doing is like overwhelming. The thing is that like throughout different hours, I honestly couldn't tell you, I can't remember the hours by heart, but the nurse would either come in to check on me or they would come in to check on the baby. So nurses keep coming in and out, in and out. I will say, I always see people post on like TikTok and stuff, the meme of like the nurse coming in and turning on all the lights. My nurse would turn on like the bare minimum amount of lights if the baby was asleep and she didn't have to check on the baby. They would come in and talk to me, and they wouldn't want to turn any lights on or disturb the baby at all. And I also will say I had a very, very positive experience with all of my nurses. I literally loved every single nurse that took care of me while I was at the hospital, while I gave birth. The two nurses that I had when I first got there, one of them is the same nurse that helped me deliver my baby, and she literally was absolutely amazing. But also I had my nurses during the day, and the nurses that, you know, checked in with me the whole entire time, absolutely amazing. Like the best faculty, is that what you call them? I don't know. The best crew of nurses ever. And I'm very, very thankful, because I know that that also just eased my comfortability within the experience as well, was having like such nice and sweet nurses who genuinely were like, they cared about the baby, but they also cared about me. So that also helped. But I just remember wanting to leave the hospital so bad, and thankfully everything, like all of the tests and stuff that you have to do while you're at the hospital, was all positive. So we actually got to go home pretty early. I think like after I gave birth, we stayed one night in the hospital after I gave birth, and then I was able to leave. I had anxiety about like coming home and what that would feel like, and I had anxiety about so much stuff before giving birth, of like what life would look like afterwards and if I would be able to handle it. There's a lot of anxious thoughts that come with it. Honestly, I just pretty much did everything. I don't know if that makes any sense necessarily, but what I mean by that is overthinking, like changing diapers and knowing what to do, and having gut instincts and like motherly instincts on what to do, and waking up with the baby, and like just being so scared on what all of that meant. I pretty much just went into it and was able to do it, and like had this knowledge. Like I said, obviously I did research into what having a baby entailed, but what I mean is like it was just all very natural to me. Like I've known how to pretty much weather weather any storm that we have went through. I'm just very, very thankful for that as well, that I was able to kind of like weather all of that and understand it. It was something I was very, very scared about, but it's been a very joyous experience. Obviously, I love my child so much. Literally, as the camera was off, she got tired and I was rocking her to sleep once again. And I was just looking at her and she was just staring at me. And there's just so much love that you feel that you don't even know that you could possibly feel for somebody. Like, you love your family, or you love a partner, or you love, you know, so many different people or pets. There is truly like no other love like having a child. And then also just like looking forward to milestones, but also it's so bittersweet as they get older, experiencing all of that. Like, I already look back at like freshly newborn photos of her, and I do feel like a little bit of like when you first get home, like obviously you're in the newborn bubble, but you're also just like surviving and thriving. You're also just like in this mode of survival. I will say we had a few hiccups like within the first few days of being home that I had a few breakdowns about, just because, not because of anything that we did, but because of misinformation that we had received from the hospital specifically, which is a little crazy. And that caused me like a lot of stress. And that was like one of the things that really rocked me, I guess you could say, was like, I felt like I was trying to do everything and stick to exactly what the hospital told me. And then I was figuring out that that was just absolutely not the right thing to do. So that was a little scary. But ultimately, in the like freshly newborn bubble, I would also say I'm very lucky, like the time of year that I had my baby, because it wasn't overly hot. Well, it was still hot a lot of the days, but we were really starting to get into the fall weather. So it was also nice to like be able to go outside and go on walks and like spend time outside. That is one of the things that helped me, was at least leaving like one time a day, even if it was just like in a car ride somewhere, but also like just like getting out, like outside. That was essential for my mental health, because even now, like where I'm at now, I definitely feel like if I, like today is an example, if there's a day that I have not left the house, I recognize what my mental feels like at the end of the day, versus if there was a day that I got out or I saw my parents or I saw friends. Like, I recognize what the mental feels like if I got out versus not getting out. I just think that that is different from person to person. That's definitely something that greatly affects me. But that leads me to the nighttime scaries, as I call it. I was very, very terrified for postpartum, and a little bit of me, and I still am, because there's still like so many different seasons and everything to go through. But I remember my nurse, because I was very open and honest like with my nurses about my personal mental health, and they were like, yeah, you need to be on watch for postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, everything like that. And I will say I was very, very, very scared of that. And I have had my moments. I'm honestly not going to get into it, because sadly I feel like people on the internet are not very understanding for the most part. Like, if you go on here and say things that you're struggling with, especially as a mother, I feel like the first thing that comes from a majority of people is judgment. I'm not going to get into that. Everybody has their moments. There are ebbs and flows of everything. I've never once thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a mom. Oh my gosh, I don't want this to be my life. And all of the hard moments, I've still thought that it was worth it for my child and the life that I have now. I'm very, very, very happy with. But the nighttime scaries, this is something that I had seen people talk about and I was very scared for, but especially now as it gets darker earlier, I definitely am also very, very scared of. And that is because I already have like my mental health declines in the wintertime with it getting cold and dark, and then the leaves fall off the trees and it just feels very bleak outside. Even before daylight savings, I felt this a little bit, where when it would get dark outside, I would start to feel this like overwhelming sense of anxiety and dread. And I don't specifically know why. And I still feel that, like, even with it being dark now, I feel like there has to be something ultimately consuming my mind for me not to feel extreme anxiety and dread. But if I'm just sitting here, I do just feel very dreadful. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's something with your mental health, where like if it's daylight outside, you just feel better because there's light coming in, and then when it's the nighttime, it just feels a little bit worse. I will say one of the things that have helped me is I put up my Christmas decorations, because Christmas decorations involve a lot of lights and it feels very cozy. So I do feel like that has helped my nighttime scares a little bit. I am scared to see what those turn into though once we are in the thick of winter and Christmas is over and all the Christmas decor is gone. That's a whole entire thing within itself that we're gonna have to battle, okay? Postpartum experience is so interesting, because you have like the first kind of 6 weeks that they chop up, you know, bed rest and just resting those first 6 weeks, and then you get the clearance after 6 weeks for most people, and then kind of what your life looks like after those 6 weeks. But then I feel like the postpartum experience continues to go on, and then it also just kind of turns into the mother experience as your child gets older and there's different developmental milestones and different things that happen. I will say so far the first 6 weeks, I am somebody who is very, very, very bad at relaxation and just like giving myself some rest time. So it was very interesting to see my version of resting. I personally didn't do the whole, I think there's like a 5 thing that I've seen. I remember doing research on where it was like 5 days in bed, 5 days around bed, something along those lines. You can look it up, I'm sure. I didn't personally do that. I just kind of went with what my body felt. So some days, yeah, I just spent majority of the days in bed. Some days I tried to like go outside. Like every day just kind of looked different. As I kind of have alluded to throughout videos, we have had troubles with sleep. Was never quite with the nighttime, like overnight. Obviously my child wakes up through the night, but it's nothing that is out of the ordinary and nothing that I cannot handle. What was sad for me as a parent during the day was that she did not have wake windows. And what I mean by that is she some days would literally not take one nap during the day. And I remember telling the doctor, like, I cannot get her down for a nap, and there was just nothing that I could do. And I just remember that feeling, because also obviously a baby when they get overtired can get very fussy, and also just being very sad because obviously babies need rest and that is what helps their development. I just remember being so lost and confused, and I was trying everything, that all of the tips, everything the doctor would say, and she just was having such long wake windows from such a young age, where she definitely should have still been pretty much sleeping and like not really having wake windows, or if there were wake windows, it shouldn't have even been an hour. So that was something that we were battling with for a while, was just having no naps during the day. Now the naps are pretty much 20 to 30 minutes, if 30 minutes, if she goes down in the crib or the bassinet and she's okay with it. If she will go down in the crib or bassinet, she pretty much only sleeps for 20 to 30 minutes, and it is very, very rare that we get her to go any longer than that. It's the same thing postpartum and motherhood wise with the 20 to 30 minute naps. The amount of things that I have been able to teach myself to accomplish within that 20 to 30 minute time frame is astonishing. I actually have a video coming out soon of me starting to try to build a new routine and kind of getting back into a structured routine. Also, just with the age that she's at, it's unrealistic for me to be like, this is my exact routine that I have every single day. Pretty much I have my non-negotiables for the day that I try to do, but there's not like a specific time that those need to be done by, because it is just very all over the place, and it would be unrealistic and kind of unfair to myself if I wanted to set a strict schedule, because that's just not realistic. I'm getting to the point in postpartum where I'm trying to get back into like the fitness and just like overall routine. I will say I've been good about like the fitness and the steps. One of the things routine wise that I just struggle with is like making meals for myself. Most days I will like look up and it'll be like 4 or 5 o'clock, and I will realize that I literally have had like nothing to eat for the day, and then by that time of the day I am already exhausted, and I am pretty much like, I do not really necessarily have time to like sit and make a full meal. So I either will just like get a Chipotle bowl, or I will get like a Culver's Kids meal, or I will just like get something random from the pantry or make something like random. Literally, I am surviving pretty much off of girl dinner. So that one's slow, but I'm trying to get back into fitness and everything. And one of the things that I've been trying to be very easy with myself on is not comparing. And this is just all over the board. The truth about motherhood is to not think, one, bounce back, two, to not be trying to get back to person that you were before motherhood, because the truth is that you are never going to be that exact person again. But that isn't a negative thing. You can still be yourself, but you are finding who you are as a person and who that person is also an identity mixed together with a mother, because obviously you are a mother, but you are also still your own person. You have your own hobbies and interests and career and different things about yourself that make you you. And that is also something that I've been trying to also prioritize within motherhood, is also showing up for myself, whatever way that looks like, because no, I'm never going to be the same exact person that I was before having a baby. And that's why I don't look back on old videos. I don't try to look back at like old pictures of myself, because I just think it's unrealistic. Because it's unrealistic for me to try to be that person, because I'm not that person that was in that video or in that picture. I am now an entirely different person, and I still like the same things. I still have the same like personality. There are little things that change, but again, finding who that person is in identity also with being a mother. But I just want to say that too, because that was something that I honestly really struggled with. I remember seeing people talk about that when I was pregnant, of like, you have to let go of that. And I just remember being very scared, honestly, and kind of a little sad. And it's also okay to be sad and be in a little bit of mourning of who that person was before having a baby. That does not mean that you are upset that you had a baby or upset that your life has changed, but it's also just like coming to terms with the fact that your life has changed and that obviously your life is not the same. Again, that does not mean it in a negative way. It's just the truth. Hopefully this is going to be the last cut for today's video. Like I was saying, I know that sometimes it can be annoying to hear somebody come on here and be like, just look at the positive side, but I want to let you guys know, in all honesty, I am not naturally that positive, look for the great in every situation. I am actually very much the opposite. But when it comes to parenting and motherhood, I feel like it's such an important thing that even in the hardest times, to gain a new perspective, the best perspective that you can, and that is not easy. That is not an easy task to do. But I always, when I am feeling some type of, if you want to quote unquote say like negative emotion or just feeling overwhelmed or anything, I always try to switch my perspective as much as I can. And listen, some moments are just hard. Some hard moments are just hard, and that is what it is, and that is okay. Parenting is hard and overwhelming at times, but it's also so rewarding and so beautiful and literally the best thing that I've ever experienced in my life. So with all of that being said, the very last thing that I am chatting to you guys about, reviews on baby products and kind of like products that I talked about in my pregnancy chat video that we bought to use, what worked out, what didn't, and then also things that we bought after the fact, because there are those items too. I'm going to first talk about things that we bought in love and use. The first thing that I have to talk about is the item that my baby is literally in quite a bit. Honestly, one, because she really enjoys it, and two, because it's very convenient. You can bring it around everywhere with you, and it's a really big way that I get like things around the house and stuff done. Her baby bouncer. There's like a bunch of different brands. We got the baby Bjorn bouncer, and she's literally in it right now. She loves it. We also work on different things as she's kind of like more sat up in it, if that makes any sense. That is probably the thing that is like outside of a bassinet that gets the most use in our house. But the second thing is our Halo bassinet. I got the Bassin Nest swivel something, and the thing that I didn't realize is our room is long, but it is not long width-wise. The base of this bassinet is so large that it cannot fit in small spaces, and basically our bed, there's like barely any room on the side of the bed for anything, and so it couldn't fit directly on the side of the bed. And that is my only like thing that I didn't really like about this bassinet. I will say it just works. Like, she's always been able to be in the bassinet. She's always been able to be in the bassinet. There's like things on there that I don't necessarily use. I've used like the white noise and stuff because you can control it from your phone. I've used the white noise and things, but there's like it kind of rocks back and forth. There's like a heartbeat and stuff. And I would say the thing that I use the most on it is the white noise. I feel like she doesn't really care for the other settings, honestly. And I feel like you don't know that until you have your baby and learn. The rocking from side to side, sometimes she likes that. She does enjoy the like rocking side to side, but it's very few and far between. The base of it is just so big that unless you have like a bunch of room at the side of your bed, which we just don't have at all, I couldn't even put it beside the bed, so like the swivel feature that it has. Like, we still use it, but it just didn't get used in the way that like I was expecting it to. The Halo Sleep Sack swaddles are the swaddles that she always loved to use. And basically, we literally even used one of these in the hospital, and it was just like a plain white one, and I brought it home with me because we were trying to swaddle her like with the blankets that they use, but we just like couldn't get it tight enough, and she kept breaking out of it. That's the swaddle that she has loved to use with swaddles. Those are the ones that work the best with us. Again, this is just something that is your baby's preference. We went into bottles I bought the Philips Advent glass bottles because everybody was talking about those. They were like, these are so good, these are the best. So I bought a majority of those bottles to have plenty of those bottles. Ooh. My two most used items out of anything are the Mom Cozy bottle washer. That is genuinely a lifesaver. We went through like a phase where we didn't have it because it like something happened to it, and then I was washing bottles and I was like, thank God we have this bottle washer, because like I couldn't imagine just getting like, I get so swept up in things sometimes that it's so nice to just be able to load them up in the bottle washer and just kind of mindlessly do it. Same thing with the Baby Rosa formula machine. Like, it is genuinely, those are both lifesavers and they save a lot of stress. The only thing with the Baby Rosa formula machine is you have to clean the funnel. You have to clean the funnel after like every 4 uses, which is good for the hygienics of it and everything. But sometimes like you are just so swept up in everything and you forget. Of course, the time that the funnel needs cleaned out, the baby is crying and wanting the bottle, and then you're like, crap, now I have to like clean this funnel out, dry it out, do all of this stuff. And so I've been trying to be very much on top of like when I get the last bottle and see it pop up that you need to clean the funnel, cleaning it immediately after, because I've been in a lot of those situations where the child is hungry and needs the bottle and you're just like, oh crap. I had bought a surplus of the Philips Advent bottles and only bought 1 pack of the Even Flow bottles just because I had seen people say that the Even Flow bottles were good. They passed the triangle test, which, look that up. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was good to pass the triangle test. I don't think the Philips Advent do pass the triangle test. Very different nipples on those bottles. And literally, we found out very quickly she would still eat out of the Philips Advent bottles, but she ate way better out of the Even Flow bottles. And of course, we only had 3 of those. And if you were a parent, you know how fast those 3 bottles go. And of course, the Even Flow bottles, specifically the glass ones, are always sold out. And specifically, when I was trying to get more of them, it was like a 2-3 week wait until I finally found more of them. So we would use up the 3 whenever they were clean, and then we would be using the Philips Advent, and it would just be like a way longer feed. She wasn't doing that well with them, so I have like stocked up on the Even Flow bottles. She loves them, I love them. Like, she does very, very well with those. Things we bought that didn't work out: 1, the Love to Dream swaddles. This was like an impulse purchase that I purchased while in the hospital, because one of the problems that she had with her swaddle was in ultrasounds, she always had her hands on her face. When we were in the hospital, I just noticed that even when we put her like in the sleep sack swaddle, she just so badly wanted her hands like up near her face. So I bought the Love to Dream swaddles because they're still swaddled in, but their hands are up. She liked these for maybe the first like 3 weeks, and I didn't even put her in these every single time, but she liked them, but she wasn't crazy about them. And I feel like she quickly got over them and no longer like wanted to sleep like that. And honestly, it always looked a little uncomfortable to me. This one's not that big of a deal, but a diaper cream paddle. Y'all, I saw so many people, they're like, you guys need to get a diaper cream paddle, you guys need to. And it's like not an expensive thing, but I honestly, literally, I was like, I do not use this damn diaper cream paddle. Something that I have that is still sitting in my cart is the wipe warmer. I was fully going to use the wipe warmer, but then I remember seeing a video and I was like, you know what? That does kind of make sense. That they were like, a wipe warmer is great, but one of the things that can happen with a wipe warmer is that, like, say you're out or you're at somebody's house and you don't have a wipe warmer and you're changing their diaper, the probability of them having like a reaction to like a cold wipe, if they're so used to a warm wipe all the time, probably not going to be that great. So I was like, you know what? We're just gonna get used to the regular wipe. The Hatch on the Go sound machine. Now, we did use this in the hospital, like this and the little egg light. Well, the egg light I still use actually like every single night, but the Hatch on the Go, we used this in the hospital. That she really, really liked it, and it was able to calm her down in the hospital. And then when we got home, I have the Hatch like rest that specifically people get for the nurseries. I have that one, and that's just what we used from then on out. I actually ended up putting that one in her nursery for when we use it when we're in her nursery. and I have my own Hatch like rest machine that I've had for literally like over like a year and a half, and that one has white noise, so I just use the white noise on my machine, then I have her machine up in her own room. The last item that I thought of was the Snuggle Me Lounger. This we never ever used for her to sleep in. It was always when she was a newborn to like place her in when she was awake for tiny moments and as she got bigger. However, she from day one never liked it. Like I would try to put her in it and she just did not like it. And the very last thing that I'm talking about are items that I ended up having to buy. The thing that I remember just always saying that I was not going to buy, that I ended up buying because of when she was in her pretty hard sleep patterns, and I just wanted to have the data to show her doctor is why I bought it. The Owlet sock. This is one of those things that I maybe even said in the pregnancy video that I didn't want to buy because I thought that it would give me a lot more anxiety. It has eased a lot of my anxiety because another thing, as she's grown older, when I put her down for the night, obviously when she goes down at like 7 to 8, I'm not going to sleep. I'm actually doing a lot more and up for a lot longer. I would get anxious about not just sitting in the same room, and so I purchased the Owlet sock, and it tells you when they're awake, when they're in light and deep sleep. It shows you, there's so many things on the app that it shows you. I'm actually really glad I got it. And another thing that I bought was the VTech monitor. It is the one that comes with the baby monitor. The Nanette stays in her nursery, and right now obviously she's not like sleeping alone in her nursery or anything like that, so I've used the Nanette a few times for when she has taken naps in the crib. I will say that I personally prefer just having an external monitor. I really wish the Nanette wasn't just on your phone and that they had a monitor, because when I think of like whenever she is sleeping in the crib by herself, I don't love the thought of like, will the notification wake me up that she is up, you know what I mean? But I love that with a monitor, even if you were using just a sound monitor, that you would be able to hear it, and I know that would wake me up. But I also do like that with the Nanette, like if you have the sign in, you can watch the footage. Like obviously when my fiance is away at work and say she is taking a nap, and he can watch it on the Nanette and he gets notifications as well. Like that is what's really nice about the Nanette. There's a lot of stuff that's nice. I keep the VTech monitor in our room for when she's asleep in the bassinet in our room, which is where she sleeps at night obviously. So when I put her down for the night, I carry the monitor. You've probably seen it in a few videos if you're paying attention, but that is definitely also one of my favorite purchases. That is all that I have for you guys today with the motherhood chat. Let me know if you guys would like another one of these down the road, because obviously like as your child gets older, there are different things that start with motherhood and different experiences, but this is just what I have experienced so far, and I know that some of you guys asked questions and wanted this video, so here we are. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, you guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff you guys know how to do, and I will see you guys when I see ya. Peace.